My name is Claire, and I'm 27 years old. 3 days before my wedding, my future father-in-law handed me legal documents demanding I abandon my 16-year-old disabled brother to a care facility, or there would be no wedding at all. He called Daniel damaged goods and said a wheelchair didn't belong in his son's perfect future. What Richard Winters didn't know was that I'd been recording every word, and that the quiet man he dismissed as just our wedding officiant was actually a family court judge. The moment my brother rolled into that final planning meeting and said, "I'm the burden Mr. Winters wants to hide," was the moment everything unraveled. If you're watching this video right now, I'd love to know where you're from. Drop it in the comment section below. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories like this. The morning routine had become our dance, choreographed through years of practice. I helped Daniel into his wheelchair at 6:30 sharp, his sleepy 16-year-old face scrunching as I adjusted the footrests. "5 more minutes, Claire," he mumbled, the same plea he'd made every morning since Mom died 3 years ago. "Nice try, buddy. Physical therapy waits for no one." I ruffled his dark hair, identical to mine before I'd started highlighting it. The cerebral palsy made his movements jerky sometimes, but his smile, when he finally cracked it, was pure sunshine. "You're worse than Mom was," he said, but there was warmth in it. He'd stopped crying when he mentioned her about 6 months ago. Progress. I wheeled him to the bathroom, helped him brush his teeth while he insisted he could do it himself. He could, mostly, but mornings were tight, and I was an ER nurse who'd learned efficiency like a religion. "Big day today," I reminded him. "The engagement party." His face clouded slightly. "Mark's dad will be there?" "Richard?" "Yeah, why?" Daniel shrugged, a complicated movement that involved his whole upper body. He looked at me weird at Christmas. Like I was, I don't know, in the way. I stopped packing his therapy bag and knelt beside his chair.
"Hey.
Look at me." Those green eyes, so much like Mom's, met mine reluctantly. "You are never in the way. Not to me, not to anyone who matters." "Got it. Got it," he said, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. The restaurant Mark had chosen was intimate and warm, exposed brick walls lined with Edison bulbs that cast everyone in golden light. I'd worn the navy dress Mark loved, and Daniel was sharp in the button-down shirt he'd picked out himself. Mark kept squeezing my hand under the table, his engineering brain probably calculating optimal moments for the announcement like it was a structural load problem. "So," Mark finally said, standing with his wine glass, "Claire and I have some news." The room fell silent. Mark's parents, my Uncle Tom and Aunt Sarah who'd flown in from Portland, a handful of our closest friends. Daniel was beside me, close enough that I could reach his hand if needed. "She said yes," Mark announced, and the room erupted. Champagne appeared from nowhere, hugs were exchanged, and I found myself showing off the ring I'd been hiding for 2 weeks. Richard Winters stood slowly, commanding the room's attention with a kind of presence that came from 40 years of running boardrooms. He raised his glass, his steel-gray eyes scanning the gathering before landing on Mark. "To my son," he said, "and his choices." One clap, a sip of wine. He sat back down. The room felt suddenly cooler. Mark's mother, Jennifer, quickly stood to smooth things over. "We're so thrilled. Claire, you're exactly what Mark needs, someone who keeps him grounded." Her smile was genuine, but I caught her glancing nervously at her husband. As people mingled, I was helping Daniel navigate his wheelchair through the crowd when Richard appeared beside us. He was studying Daniel with an expression I recognized from the ER, the way people looked at something broken they didn't think could be fixed. "Daniel, isn't it?" Richard's voice was smooth as aged whiskey. "How nice that Claire brought you along." "It's his celebration too," I said, keeping my tone light. "He's my family." "Of course." Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Though marriage is about moving forward, not dragging the past behind us." The words hung in the air like a diagnosis nobody wanted to hear. Daniel's hand found the wheel of his chair, a nervous habit, when he felt unwelcome. "The past." I kept my voice steady, though my hand moved protectively to Daniel's shoulder. "You mean my brother?" "I mean obligations that might complicate a new marriage." He straightened his cufflinks, gold, probably worth more than my monthly rent. Mark needs a partner who can match his trajectory. Not everyone understands what that requires. Before I could respond, Mark appeared, sliding an arm around my waist. Dad, stop monopolizing my fiancé. His laugh was forced. Come on, Claire, the Johnsons want to congratulate us. As we walked away, I heard Daniel quietly ask if he could go wait in the car. My heart cracked a little. Stay, I said. Please. Later that night, after we dropped Daniel at home and were sitting in Mark's car, I finally brought it up. Your father. I know. Mark rubbed his face. He's old school. And opinionated. Just don't take it personally. When it's about my brother, it's always personal. Mark turned to face me fully. Claire, I love that you take care of Daniel. It's one of the things that made me fall for you, that fierce loyalty. But Dad, he comes from a different generation. He thinks Daniel is baggage. He thinks you're young and don't realize how hard it will be. Having kids, building a life, with that responsibility. That responsibility has a name, and he's not going anywhere. Mark pulled me close. I know, and I'm not asking him to. We'll figure it out. But he didn't say he'd stand up to his father, and that silence echoed louder than any words. The wedding planning began like a hostile takeover. Richard insisted on paying for everything, which seemed generous until I realized it came with complete creative control. Every venue he suggested seemed to have narrow doorways or stairs. Every photographer he recommended specialized in walking shots through gardens. What about the Riverside Ballroom? I suggested during one planning session. It's beautiful and fully accessible. Richard barely glanced at the brochure. Too industrial. The Cliffside Manor has better views. And 16 steps to the entrance, I pointed out. Then maybe Daniel can sit this one out. He said it casually, like suggesting someone skip dessert. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. Mark suddenly became very interested in his phone. That evening, Daniel was doing homework at the kitchen table while I made dinner. He'd been quieter lately, spending more time in his room. Hey, I said, sitting beside him. Talk to me. He put down his pencil, one of the adaptive ones with the thick grip. Maybe I shouldn't come to the wedding. What? Why would you say that? I heard Mark's dad at the venue, and at the cake tasting, he kept talking about how the head table should only have mobile people for the photos. His voice cracked. 16 was such a brutal age even without everything else. I don't want to mess up your big day. Daniel, look at me. I waited until those green eyes met mine. You will be at my wedding. Front row. Hell, you'll be my man of honor if I decide. That's not a thing. It is now. I pulled him into a hug, careful of his positioning. I promised Mom I'd take care of you, but you know what? Even if I hadn't, I'd choose you. Every single time. Even over Mark? The question hung between us. No one should make me choose. He pulled back, studying my face with that perception that sometimes made him seem older than 16. But what if they do? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't scare him. A week later, at what was supposed to be a casual family dinner, Richard made another joke about the mobile wedding party in front of Mark's extended family. Everyone laughed uncomfortably. Daniel pushed his food around his plate, his appetite gone. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the awkward chuckles, Daniel will be in the wedding party. He's family. Richard's eyebrow arched. How progressive. How normal, I shot back. For people who actually love their families. The table went silent. Jennifer dabbed at her mouth with her napkin. Mark's hand found mine under the table, whether in support or warning, I couldn't tell. That night, I sat in my bedroom, guardianship papers spread across my bed. I'd had them since Mom died, but I found myself reading them again, like a soldier checking their armor. Daniel's care was my legal responsibility, but more than that, it was my choice. My privilege. I thought about Mom, how she'd fought Daniel's school for better accommodations, how she'd researched every therapy, every treatment, how she'd never once made him feel like a burden. You okay? Daniel appeared in my doorway, maneuvering his chair carefully in the small space. Shouldn't you be asleep? Couldn't. He rolled closer. You're looking at the papers again. Just making sure everything's in order. For when Mark's dad tries something worse? God, when had my little brother gotten so perceptive? He won't, I lied. Daniel tilted his head. You're a terrible liar for someone so smart. He paused. Claire? If it comes down to it, choose the wedding. I'll be okay.
No.
I'm serious. Uncle Tom and Aunt Sarah would. Daniel, stop. I moved to sit on the floor beside his chair, looking up at him. You're not a choice. You're not an option. You're my brother. End of discussion. He was quiet for a moment then. Mark doesn't get it, does he? He's trying. That's not the same as getting it. No, it wasn't. 3 days before the wedding, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Richard's name on the screen made my stomach clench. We need to go over final details, he said without preamble. My house, 10 o'clock. Come alone. Where's Mark? Site visit in Albany. This is between us. I should have known then. Should have called Olivia, my friend from college who'd become a razor-sharp attorney. Should have done anything except what I did, show up alone to Richard's mahogany and marble fortress in Westchester. His home office was designed to intimidate, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured grounds, a desk that probably cost more than Daniel's yearly therapy, and Richard himself, positioned with the morning light behind him like some corporate deity. Coffee. He gestured to a silver service. Let's just get to it. Straight to business. I admire that. He pulled a folder from his drawer, thick with legal documents. I've had my attorneys draw up some papers. A prenup? Mark and I already discussed. Not a prenup. A practical arrangement. He slid the papers across the desk. For Daniel. I picked up the document, scanning the legalese. My blood turned to ice water as I understood what I was reading. This is a guardianship transfer to an excellent facility in Connecticut. Private rooms, top-tier care, regular family visits. You want me to institutionalize my brother? Such a harsh word. Richard leaned back in his leather chair. I prefer professional care. You're 27, Claire. You should be thinking about your own children, not raising someone else's. He's not someone else's. He's mine. Is he? Or is he an obligation you inherited? There's no shame in admitting it's too much. I stood, the papers crumpling in my grip. This is illegal. You can't force. Force. Richard's laugh was cold. I'm offering you freedom. Sign this. Daniel gets excellent care. You and Mark start fresh. Everyone wins. Daniel loses. Daniel gets professional help instead of a sister who's overwhelmed and exhausted. He stood too, moving around the desk with predatory grace. I've seen you, Claire. The dark circles, the missed dinners because of therapy appointments, the way you check your phone constantly when you're with Mark. You're drowning. I'm managing fine. You're surviving. There's a difference. He was close now, close enough that I could smell his expensive cologne. Sign the papers. Daniel goes to Connecticut tonight. They have an opening. The wedding proceeds as planned. Your future is secured. And if I don't? His expression hardened. Then there's no wedding. And if you humiliate me by making a scene, if you dare to air this publicly, I'll make sure everyone knows why, that you chose a wheelchair over a wedding ring. How do you think that plays in Mark's social circles? In his career? You're threatening me. I'm presenting reality. He returned to his desk, pulling out another document. There's also this, a substantial trust fund for Daniel's care. Enough to ensure he wants for nothing. But only if you sign tonight. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From rage. You think you can buy my brother? I think I can buy your common sense. He pushed the pen toward me. No one has to know the timing. We'll say Daniel chose to go to school there, that it was his idea. Clean, simple, no drama. Not if no one finds out. I repeated slowly. That's your plan? That's the beauty of it. He smiled, the expression reptilian. Mark doesn't even have to know it was required. He thinks you're overwhelmed anyway. Mark agrees with this? Mark wants what's best for everyone. He knows Daniel is a complication. I picked up the pen, watched Richard's satisfaction bloom across his face, then set it down. I need to review this with someone. No lawyers. Just give me a copy. To think it over. He hesitated, then shrugged. You have 24 hours. Then the offer disappears, along with the wedding. I took the papers, my mind already racing. In the parking lot, I called Olivia. Claire? Aren't you getting married in 3 days? I need a lawyer.
Now.
She must have heard something in my voice because she simply said, my office. 20 minutes. Olivia's office was the opposite of Richard's, cramped, papers everywhere, a coffee-stained desk that had seen better decades. But Olivia herself was sharp as a scalpel, her dark eyes scanning the documents with increasing anger. This is coercion, she said flatly. And illegal as hell. Guardianship transfer requires court approval, medical evaluations, proof of necessity. He can't just. She stopped, reading more carefully. Holy shit, Claire. He's trying to circumvent the entire legal system. Can he do that? Rich people think they can do anything. She set down the papers. But no. This would never hold up. Any judge would see through it. But the wedding. Fuck the wedding. She caught my expression.
Sorry.
But seriously, Claire. This man is trying to force you to abandon your disabled minor brother. That's not just illegal, it's monstrous. What do I do? Olivia leaned forward. You could file charges. Coercion, attempted illegal guardianship transfer, discrimination. I can't. Mark. Mark should be handling his father, not leaving you to face this alone. She paused. Where is Mark anyway? Albany. Site visit. Convenient. She pulled out her phone. I know a judge. Harris. He owes me a favor. More importantly, he has a disabled daughter. He'll be very interested in this. I don't want to make a scene. Claire. Olivia's voice was gentle but firm. This man is trying to steal your brother. It's time to make a scene. That evening, I confronted Mark the moment he walked through my door. Daniel was at physical therapy with our neighbor, giving us privacy. Your father tried to make me sign away guardianship of Daniel. Mark froze, keys still in hand. What? I showed him the papers. Watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and finally, something that looked like resignation. You knew, I said quietly.
No.
I knew he was concerned. About the logistics. But this. He sank onto my couch. This is insane. He says you think Daniel is a complication. I never said that. But you think it. Mark was quiet for too long. I think it's going to be hard. Harder than you realize. I've been doing this for 3 years. But not while trying to have our own kids, build our own life. Claire, be realistic. Realistic? My 16-year-old brother, who lost his mother, wants to live with his sister. That's realistic. In a 2-bedroom apartment? While working 12-hour shifts. What happens when we have children? We figured out. Families do it all the time. Not families like mine. The words hung between us like a diagnosis. You mean rich families, I said slowly. Families where inconvenient relatives get hidden away. That's not. Your father called Daniel baggage. He wants to ship him off so I can be the perfect society wife. And you're considering it. I'm trying to find a compromise. There is no compromise when it comes to my brother's life. Mark stood, pacing. Maybe Dad could help find a really good. Get out. Claire.
Get out.
After he left, I sat in the dark living room, the guardianship papers still spread on the coffee table. The front door opened, and I heard the familiar whir of Daniel's wheelchair. Hey, he said softly. Mark's car was leaving pretty fast. Yeah. He rolled closer, and in the dim light from the street, I could see worry etched on his young face. It's about me, isn't it? No, baby. It's about them. Claire. His voice was so small. Maybe I should. Don't you dare finish that sentence. But if it means you can be happy. I knelt beside his chair, taking his hands in mine. They were shaking, the CP or emotion. I couldn't tell. Listen to me. You are not a burden. You are not in the way. You are my brother and I love you, and anyone who can't accept that doesn't deserve to be in our lives. But you love Mark. I thought I did. But love isn't just a feeling, Daniel. It's a choice. And anyone who asks me to choose between them and you doesn't understand love at all. He was crying now, silent tears that broke my heart. I don't want to be the reason you're alone. You're the reason I'm not alone, I said fiercely. You've been my reason to get up every morning since Mom died. You're my family. My real family. What are you going to do? I looked at the papers on the table, thought about Richard's smug face, Mark's weakness, the wedding in 3 days. I'm going to protect us. Both of us. That night, I barely slept. By 5 a.m., I was at my kitchen table with 3 cups of coffee, my laptop, and a legal pad filled with notes. Olivia had texted me at midnight. Judge Harris is in. He's disgusted. We need evidence. The plan formed like a surgical procedure, precise, careful, with no room for error. Daniel woke to find me surrounded by papers. You look like you're planning a war. Something like that. I looked up at him. I need you to trust me for the next few days. Things might get ugly. He maneuvered his chair to the coffee maker. We'd installed a lower counter, so he could reach everything. Uglier than Mark's dad trying to disappear me? You heard. Thin walls. He poured coffee with careful concentration. I'm scared, Claire. Of what? That you'll lose everything because of me. I stood, walked over to him. The only thing I'm afraid of losing is you. Everything else? Just stuff. A wedding isn't just stuff. A wedding with someone who won't protect you is worse than stuff. It's a lie. He was quiet, sipping his coffee. Then, Mom would have liked Mark. No, I said, surprising myself with the certainty. Mom would have seen through him. She had a radar for weak people. Mark's not weak. He's not strong where it counts. My phone buzzed. Olivia, need recorded evidence. Can you get Richard to repeat his threats? I showed Daniel the text. His eyes widened. You're going to record him? If he'll talk. That's dangerous. So is letting him think he can buy and sell people. Daniel set down his mug. I want to help. Absolutely not. Claire, I'm 16, not 6. And this is about me. Which is exactly why you're staying out of it. What if? He paused, thinking. What if I'm the one who makes him talk? He thinks I'm stupid. People always say more when they think you're stupid.
No.
But, Daniel, no. I won't use you as bait. He looked frustrated but nodded. What about Mark? Have you talked to him? He's texted. Wants to meet. Will you? After I get what I need from his father. The meeting with Judge Harris happened at Olivia's office that afternoon. Harris was not what I expected, a tall black man in his 60s with kind eyes and a wheelchair-accessible office that immediately put me at ease. Miss Chun, he said, shaking my hand. Olivia's told me about your situation. May I be frank?
Please.
What Richard Winters is attempting is not just illegal, it's morally reprehensible. I've seen wealthy families try to hide disabled relatives before, but rarely this blatantly. What can we do? First, we need evidence. New York is a one-party consent state for recording, so you can legally record him. But we need him to explicitly state his ultimatum. I can do that. Second, we need witnesses. The more public his downfall, the less likely he is to retaliate. Olivia leaned forward. The final seating arrangement meeting is tomorrow. Both families will be there. Perfect, Harris said. I'll attend as your officiant. That gives me standing to be present without suspicion. Won't Richard recognize you? Harris smiled. Judges are remarkably forgettable out of robes. Plus, I've never had a case involving his companies. We've never met. What about afterward? I asked. Richard's not the type to forgive humiliation. Which is why we document everything. If he retaliates, we have grounds for harassment charges, restraining orders, potentially even hate crime charges given Daniel's disability. This could get ugly, Olivia warned. It's already ugly, I said. He's trying to steal my brother. I called Richard that evening. I need clarification on some points in the document. The answer is yes or no, Claire. No clarification needed. I want to understand the visiting arrangements. For Daniel.
He sighed. Fine.
Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Same place. Mark will be. Mark has a conference call with Tokyo. This is between us.
Perfect.
That night, Daniel couldn't settle. I found him in the living room at midnight, trying to navigate his chair quietly. Can't sleep. He shook his head. I keep thinking about Mom. I sat on the couch, patting the spot beside me. He transferred over. He'd been working on independent transfers for months. What about her? Remember when that teacher said I couldn't be in the regular class? Mom went full mama bear. Showed up with printed laws, doctor's notes, even got the news involved. I smiled. Mrs. Patterson never knew what hit her. Mom didn't let anyone make her choose. He leaned against me. She would have destroyed Richard. She would have done it with a smile, too. Claire? His voice was small. What if the recording doesn't work? What if he denies everything? Then we go to Plan B. What's Plan B? I don't know yet, but there's always a Plan B. He was quiet for a moment. I don't want you to be alone because of me. Baby, listen. I turned to face him. Being alone isn't about not having a partner. It's about not having people who truly see you, value you, love you for exactly who you are. You see me.
You value me.
You love me despite all my flaws. That's not alone. And someday, I'll find someone who looks at you and sees what I see, a brilliant, funny, brave kid who happens to need a wheelchair. And that person? They'll be worthy of us. Both of us. You really think someone like that exists? I know they do. We just haven't met them yet. The next morning, I dressed carefully, professional but not trying too hard. I tucked my phone into my pocket, the recording app already loaded. Richard's office felt colder this time, or maybe that was just my anger crystallizing into something harder. Have you made your decision? He didn't even offer coffee. I need to understand something first. I pulled out my phone, setting it on the desk face down as if I was just putting it aside. The recording had started the moment I walked in. This is really about Daniel being disabled, isn't it? It's about being practical. But if Daniel were normal, would we be having this conversation? Richard's face shifted, his mask slipping. If Daniel were normal, he'd be in college in 2 years. Not dependent on you forever. So it is about his disability. It's about burden, he said flatly. That boy will never contribute. Never work. Never be anything but a drain on resources. He's 16. He's damaged. The word hit like a slap. And you're too emotional to see it. You think you're being noble, but you're being foolish. In 10 years, when you're still changing his diapers. He doesn't wear diapers. Whatever. The point is, you'll have wasted your life on someone who can't appreciate it. Daniel appreciates. Daniel is mentally deficient. He has cerebral palsy, not intellectual disability. He's in honors classes. Richard waved dismissively. Pity grades. Schools are too afraid of lawsuits to fail the disabled kids. My rage was so hot it felt cold. Say that again. The truth?
Fine.
Your brother is a waste of resources. The facility in Connecticut will keep him comfortable and out of sight, which is best for everyone, including him. Out of sight. Exactly. He leaned back, satisfied. The wedding is about presenting Mark's future. A successful man with a beautiful, unencumbered wife. Not a caregiver dragging around a wheelchair. And if I refuse? Then there's no wedding. I'll tell everyone you chose your burden over your future. Mark's reputation remains intact. The devoted son who dodged a bullet. Yours? Well, who wants to hire a nurse who puts personal drama over professional advancement? You'd sabotage my career? I'd tell the truth. That you're too emotional to make rational decisions. He smiled coldly. Sign the papers, Claire. Or lose everything. I need until tonight. The meeting is at 4. Decide by then, or I announce the wedding's cancellation right there. I stood, picked up my phone. I'll see you at 4. Walking out, I texted Olivia. Got it. Every horrible word. Her response was immediate. Game on. Back home, Daniel was doing homework, but he looked up when I entered. Did it work? I played him a portion of the recording. His face went pale, then red. He called me damaged. He's wrong. I know. But his voice shook. It still hurts. Which is why we're going to destroy him. Claire, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe just call off the wedding and walk away. And let him do this to someone else? Some other family who might not be as strong as us. Daniel considered this. Mom wouldn't walk away. No, she wouldn't. Then neither do we. That afternoon, I met with Olivia and Judge Harris one final time. Harris listened to the recording, his face darkening with each word. This is more than sufficient, he said quietly. This man needs to be stopped. The meeting's at 4, Olivia said. The venue's private dining room. 20 people, including Richard's business associates. Public humiliation, Harris mused. His worst nightmare. Is that wrong? I asked. To want him humiliated? Harris looked at me with those kind eyes. Miss Chun, this man tried to steal your brother. Humiliation is the least he deserves. At 3:30, I helped Daniel into his best outfit, a blue button-down that brought out his eyes, dark slacks that fit perfectly over his leg braces. You sure you want me there? He asked. I need you there. But we're arriving separately. I want you to come in about halfway through, with Mrs. Martinez. Our neighbor, who'd become like family since Mom died. Why? Because I want Richard to think he's won, right up until he realizes he's lost everything. Daniel grinned, and for a moment, he looked like the mischievous kid he should have been allowed to be. You're kind of scary when you're protective. Good. People should be scared to mess with us. As I drove to the venue, my phone buzzed with texts from Mark. Where are you? We need to talk. Please don't do anything rash. I turned off my phone. The time for talking had passed. The venue was elegant, crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a garden. The irony wasn't lost on me that it was fully wheelchair accessible. I walked in to find both families already assembled. Richard held court at the head of the table, confident and commanding. Mark jumped up when he saw me, but I walked past him to my seat. Claire, Jennifer said warmly. We were worried you wouldn't make it. Wouldn't miss it, I said, noting Olivia seated in the corner, officially there as my friend, but really as my legal backup. Judge Harris sat beside her, introduced to everyone as our officiant, reviewing ceremony notes. Richard stood, commanding attention. Before we finalize arrangements, there's something we need to discuss. He looked directly at me. Claire, have you made your decision about the matter we discussed? The room went quiet. Mark looked confused. This was it, the moment Richard thought he'd won. I have, I said clearly. Richard smiled. And I stood, pulling the documents from my bag. But instead of the guardianship transfer, I placed the prenup on the table. The one with his illegal terms clearly visible. I've decided the truth should come out. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Richard's face went red. What are you doing? What you should have expected. I looked around the room, meeting everyone's eyes. Richard has demanded I sign away legal guardianship of my brother Daniel as a condition of this wedding. Gasps. Jennifer's hand flew to her mouth. Mark stood. Dad, what? She's being dramatic, Richard said coldly. I simply suggested professional care. You demanded I institutionalize my 16-year-old brother, or you'd cancel the wedding. I pulled out my phone. Would you like everyone to hear exactly what you said? The silence was deafening. Judge Harris stood slowly. Perhaps I should introduce myself properly. I'm Judge Harris from Family Court. And what Miss Chun is describing is not just morally reprehensible, it's illegal. Richard's face went from red to white. You set me up. You set yourself up, I said. The moment you decided my brother was disposable. That's when Daniel entered, Mrs. Martinez pushing his wheelchair. He'd never looked more dignified, head high despite the tremor in his hands. "Hi everyone," he said quietly. "I'm the burden Mr. Winters wants to hide." The room exploded. The private dining room at the Grandview estate had never felt smaller. 20 people, frozen in various states of shock, stared as Daniel wheeled himself to the center of the room. His hands trembled on the wheels, but his voice was steady. "Mr. Winters," Daniel said, looking directly at Richard. "I'm sorry I'm such an inconvenience to your family's image." "Daniel, don't," I started, but he raised his hand, a gesture that took effort with a CP, making it all the more powerful. "No, Claire. He should hear this." Daniel turned back to Richard. "I'm 16. I lost my mom 3 years ago. My sister gave up her 20s to raise me. And you," his voice cracked slightly, "you think I don't know I'm a burden? You think I don't lie awake wondering if Claire would be happier without me?" The room was silent except for someone's sharp intake of breath. "Jennifer, maybe. But here's what you don't understand," Daniel continued. "Claire chooses me. Every day. Not because she has to anymore. Our aunt and uncle offered to take me. She chooses me because that's what real family does." Richard stood, his composure cracking. "This is ridiculous. I offered to pay for the best care." "You offered to hide me," Daniel said quietly. "Because my wheelchair doesn't match your aesthetic." "Daniel's right," I said, standing beside my brother's chair. "But we're not done yet." I looked at Judge Harris. "Your Honor, would you like to explain the legal implications of what Mr. Winters attempted?" Judge Harris rose with deliberate gravity. "Attempting to coerce someone into transferring guardianship of a minor through threats and ultimatums constitutes several crimes. Extortion, for one. Discrimination against a disabled minor, for another. The recording Ms. Chun made this morning could result in criminal charges." "Recording?" Mark's voice was hollow. "You recorded my father?" "Your father called me this morning," I said, meeting Mark's eyes. He wanted to clarify that Daniel was, and I quote, "damaged, mentally deficient, and a waste of resources." Jennifer gasped. Several of Richard's business associates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Play it," someone said. It was Mark's cousin, Sarah, a pediatrician who'd always been kind to Daniel. I pulled out my phone, found the worst part, and hit play. Richard's voice filled the room, cold and clear. "Your brother is a waste of resources. The facility in Connecticut will keep him comfortable and out of sight, which is best for everyone." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Jennifer stood. "Richard." Her voice was ice. "Our grandson, Mark's cousin's boy, has autism. Were you planning to hide him too?" "That's different."
How?
She moved toward Daniel. "How is any child different? How is any family member disposable?" She knelt beside Daniel's chair, taking his hand. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. This is not who we are. This is not who I raised my son to be." "Mom," Mark started. "Don't." Jennifer stood, facing her son. "You knew something was wrong. You had to. And you did nothing." I tried to find a compromise. There is no compromise when it comes to a child's welfare. Jennifer's composure finally cracked. "Your father tried to steal a disabled minor from his guardian, and you wanted to find middle ground?" Richard's lawyer brain kicked in. "You can't prove." "Actually, we can," Olivia said, speaking for the first time. She pulled out a folder. "The prenup you had drawn up? Your lawyers will be very interested to know you asked them to create fraudulent documents. Guardianship transfers require court approval, medical evaluations, and just cause. You tried to circumvent the entire legal system." "This is entrapment," Richard snarled. "This is consequences," Judge Harris said calmly. "And if you continue this path, I'll personally ensure the family court knows exactly what kind of man you are. Every custody case, every family matter your firm handles, they'll all know you tried to illegally separate a disabled minor from his guardian." Richard looked around the room, searching for allies. His business partners avoided his gaze. His own brother, James, shook his head in disgust. "You've destroyed everything," Richard said to me. "The merger with the Blackwood Company was dependent on this wedding." "No," Mark said suddenly. Everyone turned to him. "No,
Dad.
You destroyed everything. The moment you decided Daniel was less than human. Richard laughed bitterly. You're defending her? She humiliated our family. You humiliated us. Mark's voice broke. Do you know what Claire does? She works 12-hour shifts saving lives, then comes home and helps Daniel with homework. She takes him to therapy 3 times a week. She modified her entire apartment so he could be independent. She chose a nursing specialty that lets her work 3 days so she can be there for him. And you saw all that love, all that dedication, and called it a burden. Mark, I said softly, but he wasn't done. I'm the burden, Dad. I'm the one who stood by while you plotted to destroy the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm the one who knew something was wrong and chose comfort over courage. He turned to me, tears streaming down his face. Claire, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Daniel, who'd been silent, spoke up. You should be. His voice was steady but sad. Not just to Claire.
To me.
I trusted you. I thought you were going to be my brother. Mark's knees seemed to buckle. Daniel, You let your dad make me feel like I was ruining Claire's life. Do you know how many nights I stayed awake thinking about running away? Going to some facility myself, so Claire could be happy. Baby, no, I whispered, my heart breaking. I even researched places, Daniel continued, his voice stronger now. Found one that had good reviews. I was going to tell Claire it was my choice. That I wanted to go. The room erupted. Jennifer was crying. Sarah had her hand over her mouth. Even some of Richard's business associates looked horrified. A 16-year-old child, Judge Harris said, his professional composure finally cracking, was so traumatized by her behavior that he considered voluntarily institutionalizing himself. Mr. Winters, in my 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such cruelty. Richard straightened his tie, a gesture of control when everything was spiraling. This is all very dramatic, but legally, you're fucked, Olivia said bluntly. Sorry for the language, but it's true. The recording, the fraudulent documents, the witnesses, you're looking at potential criminal charges, certain civil litigation, and probable disbarment if this goes public. You're threatening me? I'm stating facts, Olivia replied. Claire could destroy you. She has every right to. The question is whether you're smart enough to walk away quietly. And if I don't? I stood, moving to face Richard directly. Then we go to the media. Prominent lawyer tries to steal disabled minor, makes a hell of a headline. Every parent of a disabled child in New York will know your name. Every disability rights organization will protest your firm. Every client will wonder what other laws you're willing to break. Richard's face had gone from red to purple to a concerning shade of pale. You can't. I can. I will. Unless you do exactly what Judge Harris tells you to do. Harris stepped forward. You will cease all contact with Ms. Chun and Daniel immediately. You will not attend any wedding, should one occur. You will not retaliate in any form, professional, personal, or otherwise. Any violation will result in immediate criminal charges. This is my son's wedding. No, Mark said quietly. It's not. There's no wedding. Not anymore. Everyone turned to him. My heart, already battered, seemed to stop. Mark, Jennifer said, don't make any rash decisions. It's not rash, Mom. It's overdue. Mark looked at me. Claire deserves someone who would have stood up to Dad the first time he disrespected Daniel. Someone who would have chosen them without hesitation. That's not me. I failed that test. Mark, I started, but he shook his head. You would have chosen Daniel. Without question, without hesitation. You did choose him. And I wanted to find a compromise with evil. He laughed bitterly. There's no coming back from that. Richard grabbed Mark's arm. You're throwing away your future for them? Mark shook him off.
No, Dad.
I'm trying to salvage what's left of my soul. If you do this, Richard's voice was low, dangerous. You're done. The firm, the trust fund, everything. Then I'm done. Mark pulled off his watch, a Rolex Richard had given him for graduating law school, and set it on the table. I'd rather have nothing than be the kind of man who stands by while children are hurt. The room held its breath. Then, slowly, Mark walked over to Daniel. I know you can't forgive me, he said quietly. I wouldn't forgive me. But I need you to know, you weren't ruining anything. You were showing me who my family really was. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Daniel looked up at him, and for a moment, I saw the little boy who still believed in good people. Maybe someday. When it doesn't hurt so much. Mark nodded, tears falling freely now. Then he turned to me. The ring. Keep it, I said. Sell it. Donate the money to a cerebral palsy charity. Something good should come from this. He pulled the ring from his pocket. I'd given it back days ago, and nodded. I will. I promise. Richard stood abruptly. This is insane. You're all insane. I offer to solve a problem. My brother is not a problem. The words tore from my throat. He's a person. A child. A brilliant, funny, brave kid who happens to need wheels to get around. And the fact that you can't see that, that's the only problem here. Well said, someone murmured. I turned to see Mark's Uncle James standing. Richard, I think it's time you left. You're taking their side? I'm taking the side of basic human decency. James moved to stand beside us, which you seem to have forgotten exists. One by one, people stood, forming a protective circle around Daniel and me. Jennifer. Sarah. Even some of Richard's business associates. Richard was left standing alone at the head of the table, king of nothing. You'll regret this, Richard said, his voice shaking with rage. All of you. When the Blackwood deal falls through, when the firm loses millions, then we lose millions, James said simply. Better than losing our souls. Richard grabbed his coat. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Judge Harris said with quiet authority. Because if you take one step toward retaliation, I'll personally ensure you're prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And trust me, Mr. Winters, family court judges talk. Every judge in the state will know what you tried to do here. Richard's exit was less dramatic than he probably wanted. He had to weave through the crowd of people protecting us, each one staring at him with undisguised disgust. The door slammed behind him hard enough to rattle the water glasses. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Jennifer approached us slowly. Claire, she said softly. Daniel. I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know, if I had any idea what Richard was planning. She took a shaky breath. My sister had polio as a child. Back when that meant isolation, hiding. My parents never let her feel less than. Richard knew that. He knew, and he still. It's not your fault, I said and meant it. You didn't know. But I should have seen it. The venue suggestions, the photographer comments, I should have known. Daniel surprised everyone by reaching out to take her hand. My mom used to say that people show you who they are if you're watching. Sometimes we don't want to watch because we're scared of what we'll see. Jennifer squeezed his hand, tears falling. Your mother sounds like she was very wise. She was, Daniel said simply. Mark had been standing apart, but now he approached slowly. The Blackwood meeting is tomorrow. I'm supposed to present our family as this perfect unit. He laughed bitterly. Instead, I'll be telling them the merger is off. Will you lose your job? I asked, surprising myself by caring. Probably. Dad owns 60% of the firm. He shrugged. I've got savings. I'll figure it out. Come work for me, James said suddenly. Everyone turned to him. I've been thinking about starting my own practice. Smaller, more focused on family law. Real family law, helping people, not hiding them. Uncle James. You stood up when it mattered, Mark. Late, yes, but you stood. That takes courage. James looked at me. If that's okay with Claire and Daniel. I don't want to cause more pain. Daniel and I exchanged glances. He gave a tiny nod. Everyone deserves a second chance, I said. To become better than they were. Sarah, Mark's cousin, had been typing furiously on her phone. The disability rights community needs to know about this, she said. Not the family drama, but that people like Richard exist in positions of power. No, I said quickly. No media. Daniel doesn't need that attention. Actually, Daniel said, his voice stronger than I'd heard it all day. Maybe we should. Not about us specifically, but how many other families has he done this to? How many other Richards are out there? Judge Harris nodded slowly. The boy has a point. This kind of discrimination thrives in silence. But it's your choice, Olivia added quickly. Both of you. This is your story to tell, or not tell. I looked at Daniel. It's up to you, baby. You're the one who'd face the most scrutiny. Daniel was quiet for a long moment then. Mom would do it. She'd burn the whole system down if it meant protecting even one kid. You're sure? I'm sure I don't want another kid researching facilities because someone made them feel worthless. Sarah smiled. I know a journalist who specializes in disability rights. She's good, respectful, thorough. She'd handle this right. Okay, I said. But Daniel and I approve everything before it goes out. Of course. The room began to empty slowly, people stopping to squeeze Daniel's shoulder or hug me. The Blackwood representatives, who'd been silent throughout, approached last. Miss Chun, the older one, said, "That was the bravest thing I've seen in 40 years of business." He handed me a card. If you ever need anything, legal resources, medical connections for Daniel, anything, call me. Why would you? My grandson has spina bifida. What Richard Winters attempted. It's every disabled family's nightmare. He looked at Mark. The merger is dead, son. We don't do business with people who see human beings as inconveniences. After they left, it was just family, Jennifer, Mark, James, Sarah, and the two of us. The venue manager appeared, looking uncertain. Should I cancel everything? Jennifer stood. I'll handle the cancellations. It's the least I can do. She looked at me. Claire, I'll make sure you're not charged for anything. Richard will pay the penalties. Thank you. She gathered her things, then paused. Daniel, would it be okay if I still sent you birthday cards? I know I'm not really your family anymore, but Daniel smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him all day. I'd like that. Maybe you could come to my robotics competition next month? If you want. Jennifer's face crumpled. I would be honored. After she left, Mark lingered. Claire, I know I have no right to ask, but could we talk? Alone. I looked at Daniel, who shrugged. I'll be in the lobby. They have that cool fountain. Sarah immediately offered to go with him, and James followed, leaving Mark and me alone in the ruins of what should have been our wedding planning. I don't know what to say, Mark began. Then don't say anything. I need you to understand. I wasn't choosing my father over Daniel. I was a coward. I thought I could manage him, find some way to make everyone happy. That's the problem, Mark. You can't make everyone happy when one person is evil. He flinched. My father's not evil. He's just. He tried to steal my brother. He called him damaged. He wanted to hide him away so our wedding photos would be clean. What would you call that? Mark slumped in his chair.
Wrong.
Cruel. Unforgivable. But not evil. He's my father. And Daniel's my brother. The difference is I chose my family when it mattered. We sat in silence for a moment. Through the window, I could see Daniel by the fountain, Sarah making him laugh about something. I loved you, Mark said quietly. I still do. I loved who I thought you were. But that person would have stood up to your father the first time he disrespected Daniel. You're right. He stood. I'm going to therapy. Already made the appointment. I need to understand why I let this happen.
Good.
Maybe someday.
No, Mark. There's no someday for us.
You made Daniel feel like he was ruining my life. That 16-year-old boy was ready to sacrifice himself because of what your family did to him. That's not something you come back from. He nodded, tears falling again. Take care of him. And yourself. I always have. After he left, I sat alone in the empty room, surrounded by wedding plans that would never happen. I waited to feel sad, to mourn the future I'd thought I'd have. Instead, I felt free. 3 weeks later, our apartment looked the same, but felt different. Lighter somehow. Daniel was at the kitchen table, working on his AP Physics homework while I meal prepped for the week. Claire? He didn't look up from his textbook. Are you sad about the wedding? I considered lying, but we'd promised each other honesty after everything. Sometimes. Not about Mark, but about the idea of it. The dress, the dancing, the celebration of love. That part makes me sad. We could still have a party. A We Survived Richard Winters party. I laughed. That's morbid. That's accurate. My phone buzzed. Sarah had stayed in touch, sending daily texts checking in. This one was different. Look at the times. Page B6. I pulled up the digital edition. The headline read, "When Wealth and Disability Collide, the Hidden Discrimination in New York's Elite." The article was perfect, no names, but enough details that people would know. It talked about guardianship, about the pressure to hide disabled family members, about the illegal tactics some wealthy families used. It quoted Judge Harris extensively about the legal protections in place and the consequences for those who violated them. Is that about us? Daniel asked, reading over my shoulder. About families like us. Sarah's journalist friend did good. Mr. Winters must be furious. Probably. Daniel was quiet for a moment. I don't want him to hurt you because of me. Baby, we've been over this. Nothing is because of you. It's because of him. His prejudice, his cruelty, his choices. But if I wasn't? Stop. I turned to face him fully. If you weren't here, I'd be alone. Really alone. You think Mark made me happy? You make me happy. Every day. When you nail a transfer you've been working on, when you crack a joke that makes me snort laugh, when you stay up with me during rough shifts. That's happiness. That's just life.
Exactly.
Real life. With real love. Not some performance for society. The doorbell rang. We both froze. We weren't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole and gasped. It's Jennifer. Mark's mom? What does she want? I opened the door cautiously. Jennifer stood there with a box and an envelope, looking nervous. I'm sorry to drop by unannounced. I have some things for you both. I let her in. She set the box on our coffee table and handed me the envelope. The box is for Daniel, she said. It's a gaming system with adaptive controllers. I researched, they're designed for people with different mobility needs. I hoped. Daniel wheeled over, eyes wide. This is the new VR setup. These cost. The cost doesn't matter. I wanted you to have something just for fun. Not therapy, not adaptation. Just teenage fun. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. The envelope is yours, Claire. I opened it to find a check that made me dizzy. Jennifer, this is the cost of the wedding, plus the same amount. Richard's money. I transferred it from his personal account. She smiled grimly. He can't touch you legally, but I can touch him financially. Consider it pain and suffering. I can't accept this. You can, and you will. Use it for Daniel's college fund. Or adaptive equipment. Or a vacation where you both can just breathe. She stood to leave, then paused. Mark's in therapy.
Twice a week.
He's trying to understand how he let this happen. Good for him. He's also started volunteering at a disability advocacy center. He says he needs to understand what he was willing to sacrifice. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm not asking you to forgive him, Jennifer said quickly. Or me. Or any of us. I'm hoping that maybe Daniel wasn't wrong. That maybe someday, when it doesn't hurt so much, we could not be family but not be strangers. Maybe, I said softly. Someday. After she left, Daniel and I sat staring at the check. That's a lot of money, he said finally. It is. We could move. Get a place with wider doorways, a roll-in shower. We could. Or we could stay here and get you that car you've been wanting. The accessible van so we don't have to rely on access or ride. We could do that too. Daniel grinned. Or we could do both. And still have money left over. Now you're thinking. That evening, Olivia came over with Chinese food and wine. So, I have news, she said, unpacking containers. Richard Winters is under investigation by the Bar Association.
What? How?
Turns out, attempting to create fraudulent guardianship documents is a big no-no. Someone may have sent them the recording and the prenup. She smiled innocently. Can't imagine who. Olivia. He won't be disbarred, probably. But he'll be censured. Public record. Every potential client will know what he tried to do. Daniel raised his apple juice in a toast. To justice. To family, I countered. To both, Olivia said. A month later, Daniel had his robotics competition. His team had built a robot that could navigate obstacle courses, and he'd programmed most of the navigation system himself. The auditorium was packed with proud families. You nervous? I asked, adjusting his team jacket. Terrified, but also excited. Is that weird? That's perfect. I spotted Jennifer in the crowd, sitting alone near the back. When Daniel saw her, he waved her over. You came, he said, beaming. I wouldn't miss it. I even read about robotics online, so I'd understand what's happening. During the competition, Daniel's team's robot performed flawlessly. When they announced his team had won second place, Daniel's joy was incandescent. Jennifer and I cheered so loud, people turned to stare. At the celebration dinner, just the three of us at Daniel's favorite burger place, Jennifer asked carefully, How are you both doing? Really doing? We're good, I said and meant it. Better than good, actually. Claire got promoted, Daniel said proudly. She's running the new patient advocacy program at the hospital. That's wonderful. And Daniel got into the advanced engineering program for next semester. I added. Full scholarship. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. Your mother would be so proud. Yeah, Daniel said softly. She would. As we parted ways that night, Jennifer hugged us both. Thank you, she whispered, for letting me be part of this. Thank you, I replied, for choosing right when it mattered. 6 months after the wedding that never was, I was working a night shift when they brought in a car accident victim. A teenager, wheelchair-bound, whose van had been hit by a drunk driver. His parents were hysterical, terrified. Is he going to be okay? The mother kept asking. He's already been through so much. I knelt beside her. He's going to be fine. And so are you. I promise. As I worked on the boy, I thought about paths not taken. If I'd married Mark, if I'd given in to Richard, I might be at some charity gala right now, dressed in designer clothes, pretending my brother didn't exist. Instead, I was here, saving lives, going home to Daniel, building a life that was messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. The boy's eyes fluttered open. Mom, she's right here, I said, guiding his mother's hand to his. You're safe. Later, during my break, I texted Daniel, long night. Save me some of that leftover lasagna. His response was immediate. Already in the microwave. Also, I fixed the wheelchair lift that was sticking. I'm basically an engineer now. Basically an engineer who still can't remember to put his dishes in the dishwasher. Nobody's perfect. Faced with tears of joy, love you, sis. Love you too, baby. I looked at my phone wallpaper, Daniel and me at his robotics competition, both of us laughing at something, his metal gleaming. This was family. This was love. This was choosing each other every single day. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from an unknown number. Claire, this is Mark. I know you asked me not to contact you, and I'll respect that after this. I just wanted you to know, I testified at Dad's bar hearing. Told him everything. He's been suspended for a year and ordered to undergo sensitivity training. It doesn't undo anything, but I wanted you to know. Take care of yourself and Daniel. You both deserve the world. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. Some bridges, once burned, were meant to stay ash. But others could be rebuilt, slowly, carefully. Jennifer had proven that. She came to Daniel's events now, sent him engineering articles, had become something like an aunt. Not family exactly, but not a stranger either. The next morning, I got home to find Daniel already up, making breakfast, his Saturday tradition. Scrambled or fried? He asked, not looking up from the stove. Surprise me. He grinned. Living dangerously. I like it. As we ate breakfast together, Daniel suddenly said, I've been thinking about what Mom would say. About everything that happened. Yeah, I think she'd say we won. Not because Richard got in trouble or because we got money, but because we didn't let them change us. We didn't let them make us smaller. I reached across the table, taking his hand. You're right. She would say that. And then she'd probably make some joke about wheelchairs and rolling with the punches. I laughed. God, her puns were terrible. The worst. I miss her.
Me too.
But Claire? I think she'd be really proud of us. I know she would. Daniel squeezed my hand, his grip stronger than it used to be, all that physical therapy paying off. We're going to be okay, aren't we? I thought about the future. Daniel's college applications, my new position, the accessible van we'd bought, the life we were building on our own terms. We're going to be better than okay, baby. We're going to be extraordinary. And sitting there, in our small kitchen with the morning sun streaming through windows, my 16-year-old brother grinning at me over badly scrambled eggs, I knew it was true. We'd chosen each other over everything else. And that choice had set us free. What would you sacrifice for someone society tells you is holding you back? And could you live with yourself if you made the wrong choice? If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the moments that reveal who we truly are.